Hey guys, and welcome to the Revolutionary Mail, where a little bit of knowledge is a dangerous thing. Tonight I'm going to be going into an article titled 9 Signs a Guy Brings Out the Worst in You by Celia Francon of a website called bold.com. Now bold.com articulates that it is a platform for single women to express themselves about dating and relationships. Our editorial mission is to inspire open and uninhibited conversation about what it's like to be single and dating today. How to lead fulfilling lives as single women because a partner is not a requirement for an amazing life, and how to have the healthiest and most satisfying relationships. We are not one person with an agenda, but a platform for hundreds of amazing, brilliant, and opinionated writers to share their perspectives on a variety of topics. Maybe I'll have to submit an article to them and see if they'll print it, but I doubt it. Nevertheless, let's actually get into the article that I want to discuss tonight. Again, the title being 9 Signs a Guy Brings Out the Worst in You by Celia Francon. And just take note of everything I'm reading here, and I'm going to kind of examine it as I go through it to articulate something that is very, very common in the world today, where people do not take responsibility for their choices, for their feelings, and their lives. Okay? Let's start off. Having a partner that loves, supports, and encourages you to be your best self is what everyone wants. But sometimes you might find yourself with someone who manages to get on every last nerve or easily pushes you to become a version of yourself that you don't like or recognize. If you notice these signs, it may be time to accept that the guy you like is bad for you. Now, they have the 9 actual listed reasons. Let's see. This is a lot more difficult than I remember last time. I haven't had as much practice recently in doing this, so it's a little nerve-wracking, but I think I'm going to pull through and be alright. Really, I guess this is all just by getting comfortable from being myself in front of the camera. Damn, I look tired. Well, what are you going to do? I feel like there's something in that first paragraph, really, that's indicative of everything I want to talk about here tonight. So let's read that again, okay? Having a partner that loves, supports, and encourages you to be your best self is what everyone wants. But sometimes you might find yourself with someone who manages to get on every last nerve or easily pushes you to become a version of yourself you don't like or recognize. Notice the language there. Sometimes you might find yourself. Again, as if you have no choice in the matter. Let's get to number 1. The first reason, the first sign of that a guy brings out the worst in you. You neglect other relationships because of him. It's natural for you to spend a lot of time together as a couple, but you shouldn't spend all of your time together. If you keep canceling girls' nights or some other activity with friends, co-workers, and family just so you can devote all your attention to him, that's not a healthy relationship. If he wants the best for you, he's going to help you maintain other relationships that are important to you instead of asking or encouraging you to ignore them. Okay, fair enough. Again, there's nothing in that first couple of sentences that indicates that there's any pressure coming from this other person to do this behavior. But that, all in all, is not terrible advice. You shouldn't have to spend all your time together. You shouldn't be canceling plans that you've agreed to in advance, that's for sure. If you make plans with friends, coworkers, or anyone, you should do your utmost to keep them. That means that you're acting with integrity and you're keeping your promises. Number 2, you're constantly exhausted. Being in a relationship takes work, but that shouldn't be all there is to it. When you're always arguing, worrying about how your partner will react, or juggling responsibilities that you wouldn't have if not for him, then there's a problem. That's interesting. juggling responsibilities that you wouldn't have if not for him. That's very vague. I don't really know what that means. But again, all of this stuff is choices. You're making choices. You're making choices to argue. You're making choices to worry about how your partner is going to react. You're making the choice to juggle responsibilities. Continuing on, suddenly you can't seem to meet work deadlines anymore or find the time to do the things that you love. The wrong relationship will drain your energy. It will take and take from you until you have nothing to give to yourself. All in all, there's some decent advice there about maintaining a healthy balance in your relationship. But again, this is all still framed from the point of view of things being done to you by somebody else, instead of you taking responsibility for choices. There's no power in any of this. This is all from the point of view of a powerless, choiceless victim. Number 3, he doesn't support your goals. Whenever you talk to him about your career or aspirations, he seems uninterested or makes you feel like you're stupid for trying. You tell him that you want to cut down your alcohol intake, but he keeps taking you to bars for date night and pushing you to have one more drink. What you want is a guy who can respect your decisions and goals and will do his best to help make it a reality. I would imagine that if it's reached this point, there's probably been a lot of red flags along the way that you should have taken notice of. That's for sure. This is very extreme. Relative to the first couple, this takes a radical left turn. Let's go to number 4. The most trivial things make you lose your head. When you're with someone who brings out the worst in you, everything he does just pushes you over the edge. He could forget to turn off the television at night, and you'd immediately start seeing red and screaming bloody murder. Seeing him talking to other women turns you into a jealous, raging, insecure mess. Most of the time, you can't even explain why you're mad or acting out of character. You just know that it has something to do with him. Wow. That's pretty incredible. Maybe I can kind of understand why this boyfriend in this potential scenario might want you to have another drink, especially if you're a happy drunk, because you sound like a miserable person. This is all projection. The fact that you are flipping out at trivial things is not on your boyfriend. You shouldn't be screaming bloody murder because your boyfriend leaves the television on at night. That's on you, not him. He's not bringing that out of you. You're surrendering control of your emotions. I am not responsible for your feelings. You are not responsible for mine. That is a simple and very, very easy rule of life. Incredibly powerful too, because you surrender control over the way that other people react. Because you'll never be able to actually maintain control over any of that sort of stuff. Then there's the jealousy, the raging, insecurity. All that stuff is in you, not your boyfriend. Your boyfriend's not bringing that out of you. If that's in there to begin with, it has nothing to do with the other person in your life. It's about you. And I guarantee you, you're not going from one boyfriend to another boyfriend or one relationship to another and acting completely different. It just doesn't happen that way. That's not how people are. Most people are relatively consistent in their behavior, regardless of where they are. Otherwise, there was no way people would be able to be sane. Now, clearly, going from work to home life, there's going to be maybe one of the most marked differences in behavior, simply because you're at a professional environment where certain behaviors are not appropriate that you can possibly do at home in the intimate comfort of a personal relationship like a husband or a wife, boyfriend, girlfriend. Those are the only situations where there would be a marked difference, not from one boyfriend to another. If that's going on, again, the problem is not the boyfriend. The problem is not the other person. The problem is you. If you're being that different from one relationship to another, maybe you don't have an identity that's really yours. All right, number 5. He encourages your bad habits. If your guy has the same vices as you, he might not be interested in seeing you change, because that might mean he'd have to change too. You need a guy who wants to see you improve and helps you do so, not one who fuels your bad habits. It might not seem like a big deal at first, but over time, his outright or subtle endorsement of your bad habits can prevent you from growing. Bullshit. Bullshit, bullshit, bullshit. Your choices are on you. I'm sorry, this is bullshit. Your choices are on you, not on anybody else. If you are succumbing to this kind of pressure, there's a bigger problem, beyond the fact that you may or may not have been a bad boyfriend. Let's go to number 6 now. You feel less like yourself around them. Do people tell you that you're a different person around your partner? Do you feel like you have to walk on eggshells with him? Is there an awkwardness that won't go away? Are you constantly saying things you don't mean, or that you come to regret whenever you have a conversation with him? If you have a hard time showing him who you really are, that's a clear sign that he doesn't bring out your best side. That's a guy who brings out the best in you will make you feel more like yourself and not like you need to suppress your true personality. Jesus Christ. What is being described here is what occurs in legitimately abusive relationships. And there's nothing at all to indicate in anything that she's written before this that this relationship is remotely abusive. So these things really should not be connected to each other. And in fact, if someone is in an abusive relationship, that abuse is wrong. Those people need to be supported so that they can escape, of course. But more importantly here, for our purposes in this conversation, there's a much, much bigger problem than even the stuff that she mentioned before. Because if these things are going on, walking around on eggshells, awkwardness, if you're constantly saying things that you don't mean or that you will come to regret later, this is an incredibly toxic relationship. And I'm going to tell you that more often than not, abuse is mutual. More often than not, toxic relationships are mutually abusive, where the man and the woman are abusing each other. That's more common than anything else. And honestly is what this sounds like here now that she's describing it. This sounds like an incredibly toxic relationship where she is being verbally abusive and emotionally abusive, likely because the relationship is so toxic. She's walking around on eggshells until she explodes. And then when she explodes, she unleashes a torrent of verbal and emotional abuse, the likes of which you've never seen before. Jesus. Number 7, you've become jealous of everything. I'm a person who was rarely ever jealous, but when I was with my ex, I felt that way almost all the time. Well, there you go. She's writing from personal experience. This sounds like a very toxic person. She may not be. Maybe she isn't anymore. I hope she's not anymore. But what she's describing is very, very unhealthy. Whenever he was away from me, spending time with his friends, traveling for work, using his phone too much, Jesus, I'd have this intense wave of pain and confusion build up inside me. It wasn't so much that I would worry he would cheat. I just felt bad about myself and the relationship, and it made me hate the idea that he'd dare to be happy without me. If you've suddenly become driven by jealousy, that's a sign that he's bad news for you. No, young lady, you're bad news for him. You are bad news for him. You can't control what he does. And that's the interesting thing about this. Even after she supposedly left this toxic relationship, she's still trying to control. She's still trying to control the people by projecting the nature of control onto the other person here. The way she's very framing it in that last very sentence. If you've suddenly become driven by jealousy, that's a sign that he's bad news for you. No, 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 no. Let's take some personal accountability here. You can only control yourself. He's not bad news for you. Or maybe he is, maybe he isn't. You're definitely bad news for him. But instead of taking responsibility, this entire article is framed from the point of view of that guy, the man, being bad news for this woman. He's just bringing this out of her. None of this is her fault. This is all his responsibility for making her feel this way. She has surrendered all power and control over her emotional state to this person. Not healthy. And I guarantee you it's not the first time she's done this in a relationship, because she hints at it as well. In number 6, the one above, do you people tell you that you're a different person around your partner? It's not happening just one time. Number 8, you're always trying to get the upper hand. Dominance, power, control. Love is not a power struggle or a competition. It is to this girl. If you find yourself trying to scheme or intentionally doing things to make your partner feel smaller than you or unloved, that's not a healthy sign. If you're not comfortable with compromising once in a while because you think it'll give him some kind of power over you, then you shouldn't be with him. Well said. At least that one, to some degree, is framed the right way. And then number 9, the last one. Your fights are ugly. Every couple argues from time to time. It's a normal thing. It only becomes a problem when you feel like you have to lie, throw insults around, scream at the top of your voice, break things, or even get physically violent before you can get heard. Jesus. This means that he doesn't value your voice or believe in effective communication. Do you? Or you're resentful of him and hurt him as much as you can. Whatever the reason, it's a sign that he brings out the worst in you. No, no, no. It's a sign that you're pretty screwed up and you're in an unhealthy relationship and you leave this person alone. Because how many times have we seen these situations? You can even look on YouTube and see videos of actors doing research studies where women are out in public berating and verbally abusing and emotionally abusing men, and nobody steps in to stop them. That's what she's talking about here. And the entire frame of reference for this article is indicative of just how little women recognize their abusive behavior. That's how I should frame this entire. There we go. Women don't recognize their behavior as abuse. Excellent. Well done. Thank you, pal. Good night, everyone.